Good evening, Hub Nation. Welcome to another episode of 5 Elements of Success Player Development Series. I'm Roger Nick, your host and founder of Junior Golf Hub. Got a great show for you this evening, the Brent Paladino story. And hopefully it's going to be a story similar to yours, maybe later on in your career as well. So we're really excited about having Brent Paladino here from the USGA and talking about his journey and how golf has been a part of his life and what it's done for him. So really excited about that. But before we get there, let's make sure that we actually get some questions from you, comments, concerns. We want to hear from you so we can help make this show a little bit better and help you get better out there as well. So send those questions in, 5 elements of the Golf Performance Center or YouTube chat. So look forward to hearing from you soon. Also, as far as the pop quiz, we have a pop quiz question. What date does the National Letter of Intent window begin? What date does the National Letter of Intent window begin? So we'll be talking about that later on in the show, so make sure you actually send in your answer for that. You're going to win a beautiful yardage book cover by the Junior Golf Hub, as Tyler's showing right there. What a great prize that is, so make sure you get those answers in. That winner is going to be drawn out of a hat later on in the show, so get those answers in. Also, just want to remind you, PDI self-assessment, take that first step in your journey to college golf. It's going to help you understand where you are right now and hopefully create some feedback so you can do the right things to help your journey to college golf a little bit easier and a little bit better. So before we get started last week, Tyler?
Yeah, guys, we had an awesome show last week. For anybody who missed it, it's available on juniorgolfhub.com/5 elements. It's also available on our YouTube page, the Golf Performance Center YouTube page, I should say. We had a lot of fun. Yeah. It was Halloween. We got dressed up as the Anchorman crew. Roger, I give you kudos. You did a great Ron Burgundy impression. You really did. You led us well.
Thanks, Brian.
Appreciate it. But when we got down to business, we ultimately covered some of our final primary fundamentals. We talked about club path and club face. Essentially, what we took away from last week's episode was that those are lag factors, that all the other primary fundamentals leading up to club path and club face are going to affect what they do. So when we talk about ground forces, posture, rotation, speed, and then ultimately our physical function, that's all going to dictate why the club does what it does. So again, if you're looking for more information there, check out last week's episode. It was great.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. And again, talking this week, we're talking the Brent Paladino story. So we're really excited about having Brent coming on here shortly. But, Dennis, as we're talking about, we're bringing Brent on, but we're talking about this journey to college golf. It's more than just a journey to college golf. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of players and a lot of parents really kind of forget, that maybe this is just a stepping stone. And I know you went through this journey, and we'll talk more about that with you later on the show. But as a coach here, and as obviously our director of coaching here, you see this quite often. Parents come in and talk about, hey, I want to play college. I want my son or daughter to play college golf, or maybe they say they aspire to do that.
Sure.
What do you tell them?
Well, we really just want to understand, number one, what are their goals? What's their intrinsic motivation? As you said, they may be thinking beyond college. What is their true inspiration to play this game, and what are their goals? So, I know for me, going back, to my junior days, I was thinking of playing the PGA Tour. So as you said, college golf was just a stepping stone on the way to the PGA Tour. Ultimately, I did not make it, but it really, I think, made the experience of junior golf one that took some pressure off and just let me focus on, getting to that next step.
Yeah, and we see that very often, and we hear that a lot. It's like that finite idea of, I'm doing this for college golf, not because they love the game and want to kind of master it and kind of move through this life with this journey. There's a reason or a purpose that's maybe a short-sighted purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've been talking about this. Good is the enemy of great, and I think if you just have kind of these shorter-term goals, and you feel like you've had some success, you may want to kind of protect that and not really strive to get to your best self, if you will. So. Think long-term, as we always say, and be true to yourself and true to what your inspiration is in the game.
Yeah. Well, we're going to introduce our special guest today, but let me read off some of his accomplishments here. So, Brent Paladino, Senior Director of Championship Administration for the USGA. We've got co-founder of the Northern Junior Championship. Obviously, you run the executive director of Kentucky, or was the director of Kentucky Golf Association and Kentucky PGA 2018. We're there. Class A PGA professional. Now, getting to his playing credentials, qualified for 7 USGA championships, 4 PGA professional championships, only one player in Connecticut history to win the Amateur, Professional, and Junior Player of the Year awards. Champion 2007 New England Amateur, 2007 Russell C. Palmer Cup, 2009 Vermont.
All right.
I know, right? I mean, I'm sitting here kind of going, oh my God, who is this guy?
I'll let you finish. Very impressive.
He's like a golf god here. You know, he also, by the way, set 12 individual Division I school records at the College of William & Mary. Let's welcome in Brent Paladino. Brent, welcome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you bet. Well, I think it's such a, you know, obviously those accolades are amazing, great stuff. But really, where did it start?
Yeah, I probably started playing golf when I was probably 2 years old. My grandfather was a passionate golfer and actually put a flag in our backyard and put a club in my hand and started playing. And have a younger brother that was obviously is still very much into the game of golf. And so really the two of us fed off each other and just started at a young age and just had a love for the game, you know, since day one. And it's certainly been really good to me in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, that's awesome. So started young, obviously, and it's great to hear those stories where you got the influence of the grandparents and, you know, who's, you know, getting you out there playing the game. Where did that happen? Where did that take place?
Yeah, so I grew up at a public municipal course, Timberland Golf Club in Berlin, and probably attribute the majority of my playing success to growing up there. It was a really good environment, which I think is really just an important piece of being successful in golf, is just having that good environment. There was quite a few of us that were passionate about golf, and you know, we get dropped off there in the morning and stay all day and play golf, and we just love the game. And I think that's just, it's so important to have that environment and just have something that you can do with your friends. You know, you see that in all sports, but you know, with golf sometimes it's not as common, and so to have that environment, I was just really fortunate to grow up there.
Yeah. So as we were just saying, and Dennis, we were just talking about, you know, how to get to that college level, that player, obviously growing up as an accomplished junior player, and you're going through this process. Did you think about the National Letter of Intent signing period at all, or were you kind of thinking beyond that, or, you know, was it something that you felt this became, you know, maybe a pressure bubble, you know, because we hear that with a lot of young players now, but maybe way back when you're going through this, not that long ago, just teasing. But, you know, was it the same, or did you feel this pressure of kind of this date coming up, the November 11th date, you know, kind of coming up?
Sure, yeah, it's been interesting to kind of reflect back on that, and I do think about kind of that period of my life occasionally, but obviously even more so in preparation of this, and just kind of reflecting back on that a little bit. And certainly, you know, I was not immune to that pressure by any extent. You know, just thinking back through it, and you know, just understanding how much pressure that really is. You know, I grew up as a single family, and trying to get a college golf scholarship, and you know, certainly financial pressures, and that can be a lot for a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid to go through. And I think it made a really good point about just kind of looking long term. You know, I think if I had to do it over, I think that would probably be the biggest thing. I was looking so short-sighted and so short-term in terms of, you know, how am I going to do in this next tournament? Is that going to get me to play college golf somewhere, or get me to play college golf south somewhere? And instead of looking at the long-term vision of, you know, what do I want to do with my life, with my career in golf? And, you know, obviously at 16 years old, you probably don't know the answers to that, and it's going to change a lot over the course of your life in terms of where your career goes. But just kind of looking, I think, a little bit more long-term is really kind of just looking back on my experience, I think, is really good advice.
So, yeah, Brent, how would you say that affected, you know, obviously your experience in competition, or your preparation, or even your just scheduling of tournaments? How do you think it affected how you approached everything?
Yeah, you know, it was certainly interesting, and you know, just thinking back to my junior golf days, you know, I think when I was 15 years old, I had a really high finish in an AJGA event, and that kind of propelled me to, you know, start to be a little bit more aware of, you know, where I could go, or where I could be in terms of playing golf at a high level. And that was a really great accomplishment to have a good finish like that, but it brought on a lot of those external pressure and external factors. You know, we were talking about just the ranking system, and you start looking at the rankings and doing the math of where you need to finish in this event to be able to jump this person and then get this coach to notice you. And you know, they are what they are. They're external factors, and they really are just distractions. And you know, that carries on, you know, and you can apply that in a variety of different ways outside of golf. But certainly just in junior golf, it's, I think that was really a big part of it, is you start to feel that pressure more and more, and just trying to understand how to deal with it.
You mentioned there about, the rankings and playing in events to jump over players. Did it ever also cross your mind, because we hear this a little bit now, I want to avoid certain tournaments because I don't want my rankings to drop and then get left out of the picture? Yeah,
you see that, at every level, not just junior golf, and that's just kind of the nature of the ranking system. Just for me, I think once I got to college and, probably had a little bit more awareness of what was going on, and started understanding the mental aspect of the game of golf a little bit more, you realize that you can't control those things. The only thing that you can control is just going out, working hard, and playing the best that you can. And some days you have it, obviously some days you don't. But at the end of the day, I think when you start doing all the math in your head about what you need to do to get where in this spot and here, and you start doing all the math, it's just a distraction. And it's just, I would encourage any junior golfer to try to see if you can set a goal for yourself to only look at the rankings once a week, once a month, whatever it might be. That I could, even just for me playing events now, you can see where you could get obsessed with starting to look at it, and it's just a distraction.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, we have some players that are going to be, coming, talking on the show today. Obviously, Dennis, you played at that level as well, and we have Rick Dowling coming on, and Michael Brown coming on and talking about that process, because we do. I mean, it's so daunting in so many ways and so much pressure. And I know Dennis, as a coach, you're dealing with that with our players, but you obviously dealt with it as a player yourself, coming through that process of playing at the University of Tulsa.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think, as we talked about before the show, I mean, my era was a little bit different. I mean, maybe, it wasn't as much pressure, and you kind of, you played to, tried to get as good as you could to your junior year, and then you got recruited, and you see how it worked out. And for me, I was looking long term, so I don't think I experienced it as I'm seeing some of our kids in our academy experience, that pressure that Brent talks about. And we were talking about before we got on air. Junior year is, so tough academically, so there's that pressure already of being such a good student. And then, I have golf, I'm playing golf with a deadline. I have, in the next year, I have to get to this level and get recruited. So, golf's hard enough, so to play with that deadline, it really makes it difficult.
Yeah, and it really kind of puts the golf really kind of in a different perspective for so many people when again, said, is golf important to me when it comes to, as I love golf, or is it because I'm trying to get something out of it that may or may not happen? And I think, again, that kind of can let some people down tremendously.
Yeah, and I think, ultimately, it makes it harder to accomplish what you want to accomplish, whether it's in the next year or the next 2 years. But, again, I think just being true to yourself and what your goals are, and knowing what it's going to take, showing up every day, obviously having some guidance or a coach, which I'd like to ask Brent about that as well. But, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably a good question, maybe, is that, Brent, growing up as a junior, golfer, did you experience, a lot of coaching? Was it, and I'll let Dennis talk more about that part of it, but I'm going to ask you, did you play other sports growing up?
Yeah, I played hockey for quite a number of years, all the way through kind of middle of high school. Played a ton of hockey. We'd play ice hockey, pond hockey all winter, and it was a good distraction. I mean, I think, growing up in the Northeast, I think it was, in some ways, I think it was really healthy to have that break. Certainly, there's downsides to it in trying to compete against, kids that are in Florida that are playing 12 months out of the year. But I think for my love of the game, and I think it was just healthy to have that break where you kind of just put the clubs away for a few months and kind of just take a mental break from the game. And not to say that we still didn't, work on it here or there, but I think that break and to just focus on something else was really healthy.
Yeah, that's great. Wayne Gretzky talked about that. On the other side, right? Hockey was his sport, but he talked about putting the skates away in the summer and playing baseball and other sports. So right, same thing.
Yeah. What about the physical side? Now, obviously playing other sports probably helps you, kind of prepare your body. But did you have, as today, and obviously Tyler, director of performance here, and we have a whole, kind of program, if you will, to kind of help keep the, kids healthy, long-term development, making sure that they're moving well, and obviously, keeping them not thinking necessarily about, okay, if I don't play all year, I'm not going to be prepared. So it's really kind of a preparatory kind of mindset. Did you have a physical kind of regime that kind of helped you?
I would say in my junior career, I probably wish I did. Certainly that area has grown a lot, just even the last 15 years or so, and focused a lot more on it in college. We had a TPI program that we would do, and I really made great strides in my game, and I think a lot of that was due to that, to having TPI and just having that physical component. Like I said, it's grown so much in the past 15, 20 years that it's certainly a great way to kind of get through the winter and also be working on your game without necessarily making a golf swing.
Yeah, so you mentioned TPI. What does TPI stand for?
It's a Titleist Performance Institute, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Okay,
yep.
so
it's a good buzzword, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so just making sure that you out there understand what that is, and it's really the body, golf connection, if you will, and it's. I think it's so important out there that everybody has that or a baseline to where they are, so they can actually move forward. So I think that's really so important. Surprisingly, we don't hear enough of that throughout, and again, especially for these young players who are putting a lot of stress on their body. They're going year round. They're starting to specialize early, those kind of things, and not having some type of program like that is really it's amazing. And I know as the co-founder and also director running the Northern Junior Championship, you see young athletes coming from all over. You probably had some great conversations and kind of going, I can see maybe this trajectory or maybe not, based on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I think just the performance piece of it, and it's come a long way, like I said, and you just see that specialization at such a young age and how that can be detrimental. And I think what you see a lot from kids now, at least the ones that I interact with, is they don't necessarily understand that there's a lot of ways to practice golf other than just kind of beating balls all day in the driving range. And I think that's kind of where the performance comes in, and working on that piece of it over the winter, and short game, things like that, where it's just you see a lot, and I was certainly guilty of it growing up as a junior golfer, is just standing in the range and just beating balls because you felt like that was the best way to get better. And there's really just so many other pieces to the game, and just how you actually hit the ball on the driving range. So yeah. I think that's really important.
Now, Brent, with all the success you've had, I mean, you must have had some guidance, a coach, a teacher, along the way as a junior. Did you have somebody that brought you all the way through your junior days into college, or?
Yeah, I was fortunate. So growing up at Timberland, we had a guy by the name of Chuck Lasher, who was a PGA member and was kind of the teaching professional at the course, and he basically mentored myself, my brother, and quite a number of other junior golfers from Timberland. And it was just really important to have that connection, that coach connection. We certainly didn't work every single day on the golf swing. We actually probably played golf together more than we did anything else. And I think that was really good for him to not just see it in terms of a professional development, but just to kind of have that connection where you felt comfortable, talking to them, not just about your golf swing, but just, even things like the mental aspect of the game. And, really was kind of the true definition of a coach, I would say. And, really what a coach is to be a mentor.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So obviously we talk about the importance of having the same coach for a long time to actually make some progress and within whatever system you're working on and philosophy. So I would imagine you believe it must have been really beneficial to have that same coach all the way through.
Yeah, you develop that relationship, right? And it's so important, not just from a comfort level, but just to really have that connection with someone. And it probably in any sport, it's when you have that consistency for a number of years, you really start to see the progress. And it's not something you're going to see out of one or two lessons. It really takes, to make progress, it takes years. It takes years of work, and to really build that relationship with your coach.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Well, really you're talking about years when you're talking about, here's Tiger Woods moving towards seniorhood, if you will, and he's still working on his game, still developing, still working hard on learning about his game. And obviously Bryson DeChambeau, the most recent project out there on tour, saying, hey, I'm working on these things to get better, and here he is, one of the best players in the world. And I think that there's just so many stories like that. And again, I go back to that idea of don't let good be the evil of great. So
yeah, I mean, I tell our juniors all the time, that Tiger Woods, I mean, a lot of them weren't born when he won the Masters by 12 shots, but what was his what was his reaction or decision, whatever you want to call it, after that tournament? I'm going to change my golf swing because I can get better. So you talk about risking being #1 in the world, and obviously already dominating the best players in the world. why make a change? But he just thought there was he could get better.
Yeah.
And he wanted
Is
to.
that something that you went through, Brent? Did you ever kind of find yourself kind of getting to a point in your golf journey and saying, hey, I really want to step it up. I need to make some significant changes. Did you have a significant change anywhere?
Yeah, I would say once I got to college and started to play against obviously higher competition, and you're playing against kids that are 4 years older than you, and they're hitting the ball farther and probably hitting it better. And I went through a couple of swing changes, changed my grip, and a few other things, and but just always kept working on it. I think that's a really good really good point, is just to always be working on it and trying to get better. We were talking before the show about plateauing, and kind of I would make the analogy of it's really no different when you're playing around a golf and you start out 2 or 3 under through 6. Do you keep pressing and you keep trying to make birdies, or do you start looking at the scorecard and thinking, well, if I could just par in, that would be good enough, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think I've tried to take that with me, throughout my life, not just in golf, is just to always be trying to get better. And not for anyone else other than myself, is just to try to keep improving, try to keep working on things, and obviously enjoy the successes, and we get to reflect on the successes, and in a time like this where I get to look back and you get to read all my accomplishments, and I get to feel good about it. But at the same time, even to this day, I'm still competitive and still want to feel like I could still get better and still play competitively and
Add to that list.
Exactly, add to the list. Exactly right.
That's what we want, right? So Dennis, we have a couple players. We got Michael Brown on the line here, going to Swarthmore College, and there's a player. He's had some success there. Talk a little bit with Michael on his journey and how he got there.
Yeah. Welcome, Michael. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, I like that flag in the background there. Tyler's doing fist pumps back there, getting excited for next week.
Yeah.
Masters.
It's next week.
So
Thanks
Michael,
very
just tell us where are you in your college journey? What year are you at Swarthmore?
Yep, so I was going to be a senior this year. I'm taking a gap year, so I've completed 3 years at Swarthmore so far.
Right, okay. And so just so people understand where you are, let's go back to your junior days. Obviously, we know we spent a lot of time together. You came through the academy here at GPC, and just tell us a little bit about where just the beginning of your inspiration for golf, and where you kind of developed your goals and your vision of your future. Where did that all start for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say I started playing a lot of my golf when I was about 7 or 8. I have a twin sister, and we would go on vacation with my family when I was younger. I always play mini golf, so I like mini golf. My dad one day took me to the driving range, and I just took it up and loved it. I kept playing. I started playing competitive tournaments when I was about, I'd say, 12 or 13, right before high school. So yeah, that's pretty much how I fell into the competitive golf world. And I went to GPC when I was, I guess, 4 high school. And it's been, extremely helpful when I was going through the academy. I'd say one important thing I took away from the process is just understanding not only how you play, but yourself and how hard you work. So, that's just a really important thing I'd say to take away from there. Another thing I'd say about myself, is I was a little bit of a late bloomer. Like going through the junior golf world, I didn't, play too frequently on the AJGA. Had some top finishes in Hurricane Tour, Challenge Cup events. Ended up winning my high school state championship, actually at Timberland, when I was in junior year of high school. But everything I've learned through the junior process, junior golf, process is that you don't stop working, you keep at it. And I've taken that, ended up at Swarthmore College and kept working on my game, and continue to improve through college. So.
Hey,
Yeah,
Michael?
that's what I'd say I'd take away. Yep.
Hey, Mike. So Michael, when you got to Swarthmore, what happened in your first year?
My first year?
Yeah.
So I broke 70 for the first time in my first tournament, and won my first competitive tournament. It was a one-day event at my team's home course in Delaware. So, yeah, that was exciting. I was surprised myself.
Good way to start.
Yeah, it's a great way to start, but it just goes to show you the hard work, kind of, as you said, progresses through. And as a late bloomer, you know, you're just kind of coming into your own later on. But, you know, obviously we remember you when you started, you know, coming here and playing some of the fall events that we had, and you kind of really, you know, kind of got hooked on that competitive bug, if you will. Yeah, so that's always fun to see, and it's great to see your development.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So give us a couple comments that you would give. You know, what's your top 2 advice to the junior golfers out there?
Top 2 advice. I would say always believe in yourself. You know, it's not a straight line progression at all. You know, you're going to be growing physically. Your golf swing is going to change. So just trust your process, really. Don't focus too much on your results, and just really focus on developing a strong practice plan for yourself. So that's one thing. I'd say the second thing, don't underestimate the importance of working on your game physically. You know, you see it in, I guess, the PGA Tour today and just everywhere throughout the world of golf, if you will. Like, you improve, you get stronger, you get faster. You need to stretch and maintain your flexibility, and it's only going to help you in the long run. Especially now, like, you know, it's difficult to keep everything up in this COVID-19 era, but the more you put in on your practice plan and your physical side, develop a routine and stick with it, it'll only help you in the long run, and you got to keep at it.
So, Michael, tell us, you know, when did you first get the idea or the vision of, you know, you playing college golf, and then, you know, what did you do from there? What was the, you know, creating the list? What was that process like of colleges, and then reaching out to coaches? What was the timeline on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say I started really focusing on college golf, knowing that I wanted to play, I guess, my sophomore year of high school. And maybe I started a little bit late to the game, but I got a list of schools. I know I wanted to play Division III. I wasn't sure what I wanted to study, so I took that into account. I went to a liberal arts school, and I developed a list of schools and got coach contacts. Started emailing them. I'd say end of sophomore year, junior year. It's, you know, big jump from sophomore to junior year. So yeah, it's daunting at first. As soon as you start communicating, though, you get over the hump, and you know, you really realize like what you want to do and where you want to go, and you become passionate about that. So yeah, I'd say that's where I was on the recruiting timeline.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think a lot of juniors are daunted by just starting that process, but that's great advice that you feel like just from starting it and getting communication, you start to learn about, you know, maybe where you want to go or can go, and it helps kind of just getting that started is really important. That's great.
Yeah, it's one of those things why we created the checklist.
That's right.
The Junior Golf Hub checklist, so it's great.
Yeah.
So we also have Rick Dowling here. So Rick Dowling, former standout at Fairfield University, and 2-time Connecticut AM champion, or is it 3-time or 4-time now? I lose track with all the success you have. But Rick, welcome to the show this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and obviously you're working with the Hub as well, and
Yes.
golf is near and dear to your heart. So tell us a little bit how you got started and what that process looked like for you getting here.
Yeah, sure. I started late. I played other sports growing up. I played basketball and baseball, and I wanted to be a MLB pitcher or a point guard in the NBA.
He's got a good arm.
And then I got cut from both my baseball and basketball teams in high school. So I had to pick up another sport. I loved golf, but I wasn't very good at it. But then I had to get good at it because it was the sport I picked. So yeah, I started late, and then I couldn't break 80 my sophomore year of high school, and then I had someone take me under their wing and help me out and give me some tips, and I started getting better. I didn't know college golf existed. I didn't know the NLI existed. I picked 3 schools to reach out to and share my resume with. I played in the Northern Junior twice, which is probably the biggest event I played in when I was a junior.
Yeah.
Didn't really go outside the state to play events. And then, yeah, so I had 3 schools, and then I picked one. I applied early action, and that's where I went and played college golf.
Yeah. So Rick, I think that's a really great story, because I think we hear that more than the other story, which is, hey, I was the anomaly. I was the great player that was destined to play at the top Division I school.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of our audience maybe just gets overwhelmed with, I don't know what to do anymore, and why should I continue this journey? And that's really your success, and as Michael just talked about, as a late bloomer,
Yeah.
is why you want to continue following your passion, not because you're doing it for that finite, I got to get a college scholarship, is,
Yeah.
hey, I love this, and I want to see how good I get at it.
Right. Yeah. I love the challenge. I love competing against other people, and I didn't view getting to college golf as the goal line or the end line, because I didn't know it was the end line. I loved the sport. I loved competing, and I kind of looked like Michael Brown. People say I look like Michael Brown. I didn't break par until my first tournament in college either. Yeah. I was a late bloomer, and I've still going on to compete in other tournaments. My love for golf has not stopped. I'm still trying to move up. There's been a progression, but mine was just later on than other people's was.
Yeah. So golf is part of your life as a competitor, but it's a part of your life also. And I know you work with us at Junior Golf Hub, and your passion shows for how you're helping other juniors in that journey. Is that something you'd like to see continue, and kind of just how do you help other people?
Yeah, I mean, take the NLI, for example. Something that we're passionate about is just educating the junior golf landscape, the parents and the kids that are going through this process. Like I said, the NLI is viewed as this big burden that can be lifted off the family's shoulders. It signifies a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, practice, effort, travel, money that has gone into this journey. But you really shouldn't view it as the end of the journey. I talked to some kids that are signing, and now they're talking about, all I'm focusing on is my game and getting better. And it's like, well, why didn't you just focus that way before?
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It's kind of both, where it really, you do want to allow yourself to step back and be like, wow, I did it. I signed, but at the same time, you're continuing to go on and try to develop your game and get better.
Yeah, really tough thing to do. And I know, again, as you went through it and you're going through it now in a multitude with all of our players that you're coaching, and just keeping up with that process is really daunting. And how do you do that?
Yeah, I think, the Junior Golf Hub is a big help, obviously, having that checklist. And we do regular check-ins with our juniors and the parents and make sure, everybody's on the same page, and, just giving themselves the best chance to end up at one of those schools that fits, fits where they want to be academically, golf-wise, what part of the country, big versus small. So just kind of going through that process and understanding, are you on track? And that's what the Junior Golf Hub is really helpful, for these juniors to make sure they're on track at every step.
Yeah, and so those players that you're going through with, and when you're talking to the player, now how about the parent, or what's the message to the parent going through this process? Because I know we've had this discussion multiple times, and sometimes the parents don't realize how fast this goes. We've had that multiple times over the years where parents go, oh my God, it's my kid's a senior, and we just were here 4 years ago thinking, oh, we had so much time.
Yeah, I think, again, we talk about long term. Just from the development standpoint, you have to accept that it's going to take some time. But, from the college search process standpoint, reaching out to coaches, just do not delay. Do not delay. Get to work. I think you can get concerned and start to overthink it and just not take action. And sometimes people do that in the workplace when they're looking for a job. I mean, you've just got to start taking action, get over that first hurdle like Michael Brown talked about, and you'll end up where you want to be.
Yeah, that's great. We have Brent back on, and Brent, so obviously you're competitive, you're still competitive, and now you're working with the USGA, and golf obviously is so much a part of your life. How does that kind of spilled over into your work with the USGA and what you do there, and how your experiences have really helped you in life, and that makes you feel good about why you got into golf?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, golf is such a big part of my life, and obviously has been since I started playing competitively, and obviously just fell in love with the game at a young age. But it's done so much for me professionally, just being involved with the USGA, and certainly involved with running the Northern Junior Championship. It's a passion of mine, and it's kind of a cliche, but I feel like when I go to work every day, it's not work. There's certainly stressful days like any job, but just to be involved in golf and to help grow the game in a small way with the USGA is it's just a lot of fun for me to be involved with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, growing the game with the USGA, but what you're doing with the Northern Junior, I mean, we can't thank you enough as the Golf Performance Center and the Junior Golf Hub, and giving those opportunities for those young players who again are aspiring to be like you, and how golf fits into their life. So again, so thanks so much for what you're doing there, because that is really growing the game in a big way. I mean, I've seen that tournament grow from just small tournament to little regional tournament, local tournament, to now it's almost an international tournament. So I mean, you're making a big difference, big impact. So thanks so much for doing that for these junior golfers out there, and it doesn't go unnoticed. I put it that way. Appreciate that time. So before we end, we got some questions coming up, and we talk about the NLI and that date coming up. So Andrew, we have some questions.
Yeah, the first question is, when is a good time to stop playing other sports and solely focus on golf?
All right, great question, Dennis.
Yeah. I guess, Brent, it was about 17 or 18 years old for you, right, with hockey. So there's no perfect answer. Obviously, you can make it work, and there's a lot of benefits from playing other sports. We certainly believe that anything before 13 or 14 is just not necessary or beneficial. If you want to drop the other sports in high school and focus on golf, that might make sense. So say 13 or 14 on average.
And the next question is, what is the National Letter of Intent?
Good question. We're going to be talking about that next week, Andrew, on our show. So Rick Dowling's going to be our special guest next week and really talk about that in depth, and why we have the National Letter of Intent signing date and how important that is to these juniors and parents out there. So good question. Tune in next week.
The next question is, I'm interested in getting more into golf, specifically playing tournaments. How do I know if I'm good enough to compete, and where do I start?
Yeah, that's a great question. The Junior Golf Hub can help with a tournament finder. I think playing in local PGA section events is obviously a great way to start. The Hurricane Tour obviously is casts a wide net as far as skill levels and ages. So those are two great places to start.
Yeah, I think another one there is the PDI. Start with a self-assessment, that PDI. That may help you understand where you are in your game right now. I know we had a little success story last week where somebody took the self-assessment and a coach-guided assessment and found out that, man, they should be playing golf, playing tournaments. So, test yourself.
That's it for the questions, and we do have a winner for the yardage book. And it's,
all right, yardage book cover.
It's Anders Homan.
All right, Anders, great job, well done. Where's that yardage book cover? Let's show it off.
Right.
Great job. So you got that. I don't know if I can see it. Oh man, fumble. Get that yardage book cover. All right. So again, next week's show, really excited about that. We're going to have Rick Dowling and the Junior Golf Hub coming on and talking about the National Letter of Intent signing time. What is it? Who's it for? What do I need to do to reach the milestone of my journey to college golf? So that's going to be really important, and why the college golf checklist is so important to keep you on track. So, tune in for that next week. So we're really excited about that. And as always, we want to say thank you to our sponsors, Junior Golf Hub. Make sure you're downloading that app. Get those coaches in your pocket. Get those tournaments that you can sign up for, and get recognized out there for the college coaches. Also, Ethan Allen Preparatory, achieving your greatness in the classroom, on the golf course, and in life. Let's make sure you're getting out there, enjoying your journey.